Good morning, people from the well. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Overflow podcast. Here we are at episode 73, Overflowing.
All right.
Yep. And so my name is Andy Ferguson. Sitting next to me is Pastor Jeff Waterman. We're here at the Well Church offices as long as it'll last.
Yeah. There's a little temporary space, but we're not sure what the next one will look like. Well, good morning, Andy. How was your 4th of July?
It was pretty awesome, actually. Yeah. Got together with some great friends, a couple congregants from our church, actually, and experienced the fireworks in Howell. And my goodness, they were phenomenal.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Everybody that was there, at least the ones that I was talking to, is this whole similar vibe of, I've been alive for 40 years and I've never seen fireworks quite like that before. It was really amazing. Good. But then you spent yours on the lake.
Of course, yeah. Just had family over and kind of kept it small. You know, we've had some big 4th of July stuff.
Yes.
But we had a wedding over the weekend and went, well, we'll just keep it simple. But yeah, it was a great show. Yeah, always fun on the lake. Gajillion boats. You just try not to hit anybody and stuff. But no, they had 3 barges on the lake shooting stuff off. It was
amazing.
American, USA, 4th of July. Let's blow stuff up.
Exactly right. Yeah. And thank God that people showed up on Sunday and they weren't missing any digits or anything.
Right.
Everybody was okay.
Yeah, for sure. It seemed like everybody was relatively awake on Sunday mornings. So yeah.
You know what?
Late night.
And one of those, I guess, unspoken, unfortunate things that sometimes is talked about within like the church staff or staffing of different churches in general is the lower attendance numbers that seem to come after a holiday like the 4th of July. However, I'm super proud of our congregation. We showed up in good numbers, and it was a full service.
Yeah, it was much fuller than I thought. I was joking like the 12 people that are going to make it,
Right.
But there's a lot that were there because, ultimately, yes, we're celebrating the country in which we live. But I think for the Christian, we are wise. We'll talk about wisdom today. We are wise to apply the knowledge of the country we live in and realize that where it comes from. It comes from what God has provided us, what we have. And so there's no more appropriate place on the 250th birthday weekend of our country, no more appropriate place to be than in a church, celebrating and worshiping the God that's provided it for us.
Absolutely, being thankful and all of that. So we started off a new sermon series, and it's called Just Ask. We're going to be living in this sermon series throughout the rest of the summer, and it'll go until Labor Day.
Right.
So, the September 7th or 6th, something in that area is
whatever the date is. I'm trying not to think about September in the middle of July. Okay, we want to live in summer. We don't want fall to get here faster than it has to be.
That's fair. So we started off this sermon series with a very, I would say, important baseline, a foundational point, a starting point.
Yeah.
Is it okay to even ask questions? So the whole sermon series is about just ask. So bring us down.
Yeah, the idea was there's a lot of questions that get flown around, particularly that wonderful space we call the internet. Whether you're on Reddit or you're on Quora or any of those things, and people will debate and ask questions that revolve around faith. How do we live out our faith? Should we live out our faith? What does all of that look like? How confident can we be in all of that kind of stuff? And then, so we thought we'd create a series where we'll just ask some questions. Well, one of the, unwritten things in a lot of religious circles is it even okay to ask a question? Or should we, some people believe that Christianity is just blind faith. Like we're just, we don't ask any questions because we're not allowed. God doesn't want ask any questions. So you just got to suck it up whether you agree with it or not. And that's not the case.
You're right. A lot of people even think, there aren't answers, right? So it couldn't possibly be the case, right? They just go down that route instead, the total pessimistic type of thinking within asking questions. But what is actually true is that we have a faith-based, evidence-based faith, in other words. And many of us, myself, I know you too, we've gone into drastic amounts of research and study and deep diving into, I mean, the theology. What am I trying to say? Theology, and trying to figure out, okay, why should I believe what I'm believing here, and what are the evidences to base my faith upon? And there is more evidence and structure and solid answers than I could ever find, it seems.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at any religion, any faith, and say it's a lot of emotion based,
Right.
or a lot of wishful thinking,
Right.
right? And I think there is a lot of emotion in Christianity. I mean, when we get together and we worship, there's everything from excitement to tears to and everything in between, right? There can be in worship. There's a lot of emotion attached. I know I've been to a lot of different conferences, and we'll be singing, and all of a sudden the emotion will hit me, and people say, well, did you get enough sleep, or yada yada yada. But there is emotion in faith and in religion, for sure. But that can't be all that sustains you. That can be part of the equation. But there's got to be a part of it too that doesn't make sense. Are the answers it's providing, are they able to be tested? Is the information able to be confirmed? Are those things there, or is it just something that somebody made up?
Right, exactly. And more often we're finding that science is finding or coming to the same conclusions that the Bible's been telling us for thousands of years.
For sure.
Yeah. Right.
Right. I mean, and I'm a Christian. There's some people that think Christians are afraid of science. I'm not, because if what I believe is true, that truth will stand up against any scrutiny, right? Because it's truth. And then if it doesn't, for whatever reason, then I've got to go back and either I'm misunderstanding what's happening, or this isn't real.
Yep. Absolutely. So, I mean, there was a phrase that I wrote down just before this particular episode, and it's that truth is not fragile, right? Truth can withstand examination. And if it can't, it's probably not true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So go ahead. God is not afraid of your questions. He's bigger than that.
Not at all. Now you might not like his answer,
That's the problem. Yeah.
right? But he's not afraid of your questions.
Right, right. Yeah. So you took us through the beginning portion of the book of James to start off this series.
Right.
And you did that for the theme of wisdom.
Yeah, because what James says in James 1, he says, look, if any of you lack wisdom. So then we've had to step back and ask the question, well, what is wisdom? How do I know if I lack it, right? And there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. I can know a lot, but if I don't know how to apply that knowledge to real life, then the knowledge is just useless, right? So wisdom is that right application of knowledge. How can I take what I know and put it into practice? So in essence, what James is saying, if any of you doesn't know what the heck to do, just ask.
Yeah.
Right? So if any of you don't understand, or any of you don't know how to apply, or maybe you don't even know what you need to know so that you can apply what you need to know, if any of you lacks it, ask it.
Right. And so, I mean, that's beyond the obvious main theme here is asking God questions and things like that. But beyond that, though, is asking anyone. Like, just go to your community. You've got elders, you've got mentors, you've got teachers. I mean, there's all sorts of, the wealth of knowledge and information that's available online through research and whatnot. Lots of people have put in many more hours than we have with researching specific areas of the Bible or things of doctrine and theology and so on. But yeah, ask.
Yeah, ask. I would first ask God.
Yeah.
Say, all right, God, I don't understand. Now, I have been in situations where I have heard a response. It's been in my ear, and there's no one else around. I cited a couple of those examples on Sunday, and God can for sure answer you right away.
Yeah.
Other ways He answers, though, is you'll be reading a section of Scripture, and then you go, or you'll be talking to someone, and all of a sudden they'll bring something up, and you go, Or you go simply ask someone, say, man, God and I have been really having this conversation. I'm not here much. Here's my question. And they might say, you know what? Me too. I had that question. Here's what I'm hearing. And then God can answer our questions in in multiple ways and in singular ways. So first ask God, say, hey, help me find this. And then go to the Word, go to other people, leverage the tools that God has given us so that he can speak truth to us.
Absolutely. I love the phrase within James where he says, if any of you lacks wisdom in anything, by the way, there's no like condition there, but if you simply lack wisdom, then let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach. This is a wonderful promise right there. And that without reproach, I like to get into the word study of that because I mean, it's without criticizing, without belittling, and it's without hesitation. Like he wants you to come to him boldly and ask things that, why not? It's God who can do anything. It's almost diminishing his glory or his power to say, oh, I don't know if I should, I don't know if I can ask God that, or I don't know if I'm going to ask for that much because I don't know if he can. Right. So go for it. And the worst he could say is, well, it's always either no, yes, or not yet. Right. I mean, that's.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think this was under the heading on Sunday. God loves to hear from us.
Yeah.
He loves to hear from us. Sometimes we can go to someone and ask a question and we'll get the eye roll like,
yeah.
Have you ever gotten like,
I think I've done that a few times, to be honest.
Really? We're here again. Right.
Right.
God doesn't do the eye roll.
Right.
He actually is delighted that you came and asked him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't criticize, he doesn't belittle, he doesn't demean, he doesn't devalue. He actually loves to hear from us, and he loves to hear from us over and over. Now, he's going to give us the same answer over and over most of the time because his answer is true. And it could be, if it's a yes/no question, sure, it's yes/no, but sometimes it can be a understanding, a restructuring our perspective, like, oh, never thought of it that way before.
Yeah.
Right. So that now we can begin to see life through his eyes. When we're told in Scripture that God gives us the desires of our heart, that doesn't mean, wow, I just saw a really cool car come in, I want that car, or a car like that. It's not that, oh, you desire it, I'll give it to you. But what it's meaning is he's changing our heart's desire, changing what it is that we desire. We desire things of the kingdom more than things of the earth. So, sometimes to get that, we've got to change our perspective. He's got to help us see something in a different way. But he loves to hear from us. He loves to hear what we're struggling with, what we're excited about. And he does so without reproach, with no eye roll.
Yeah. So it's important to be able to recognize that even though it might feel like you might need to have humility or a certain sense of submissiveness to go to God for those things rather than, I could do it by my own might or my own willpower or my own brain power, or I could figure this thing out. Even though it might seem that way, that's not the case. God actually built us, and you said this on Sunday. God built you in such a way that you need Him, and that's not a confusing thing.
Right.
We have this void within ourselves that we're always yearning for. We want to praise something, right? We want to idolize something, and we have a tendency to do this to all the wrong things. But He built us with that desire to seek something more, to want something more, to achieve and to ascend and to grow.
Yeah, look around the ancient peoples. How many different religions are focused on something beyond here?
Exactly.
Right? They might not have known the God of the Bible, but wow, the sun is a lot bigger than me. So there's a sun god, there's a moon god, there's a why? To your point, God has created us to know that there's something bigger than us, and we want to be in relationship with it.
Yep. So get beyond the humility and just come to acceptance. You're just like, God, I need you. That's all that it comes down to. And Job says that you should have to search for wisdom with a passion and a zeal, as if it was like you're mining a treasure out of the earth, right? Mining a treasure. That's how Job says we're to seek and search for wisdom with passion.
Yeah. Think about all those, back in the gold rush days where people they would go into the mountains and they would just dig. They disappear for months because they know there's gold in them there hills, right? And so they would do what they can to find it, and then they found it and they would bring it back. And of course, then everybody's trying to steal it from them and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, do we have that passion when we're seeking after wisdom, or do we just? That's a really, really good challenge.
Yeah, and we know what the Bible says about the beginning of wisdom. Where does wisdom even start? It starts with a right perspective. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And that's getting your whole worldview into perspective. Let's shift it. So the Bible defines a fool as someone who exists apart from God, someone who rejects or ignores or lives independently of the wisdom of God. Psalm 14:1 says, "The fool says in his heart, there is no God." Proverbs 12:15 says, "The way of the fool seems right to them." It's very easy to think of people that might be like that, right? And they go, "Oh, I don't need God," or "I'm a scoffer" type of a person. We see a lot of that on the internet these days. And Romans 1:21 and 22 describes people who know of God but did not honor him. They claim to be wise, yet they become fools.
Right.
And so we need that whole perspective shift to have the fear of the Lord, the understanding and the right placement of who I am in comparison to who God is.
Yeah, where do I go first? Right? If I'm in a spot, or if I'm in trouble, if I'm lacking understanding, lacking wisdom, where do I go first? Do I first go to the Lord because he's the keeper of truth?
Yeah.
Or do I act like what you're saying, they're a fool that says, I can figure it out, I got this. I don't need God. As soon as you say I don't need God or I got this, you're acting a fool.
Yeah, that's right. So let's bring up James 3 here, because if we're talking about wisdom, where to get it, where it comes from, how to ask for it from God, or anything along that nature, what can we learn from James 3?
Yeah, James 3, the little section in the Bible is titled Wisdom from Above. And it says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes from above, but it is earthly, unspiritual, demonic." Ugh.
Yeah.
"For where jealousy and selfish ambition exists, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace." So you can see where God is, through James, is contrasting these two ideas, this fool versus wisdom. Fool functions here in earthly wisdom, seeks selfish ambition and is always trying to prop up self, always making self look good and all of that stuff, where the humility part comes in, understanding who's God, who's not, who's the keeper of truth, but understanding that I can go and get that. Well, that creates this level of peace and of mercy. And I love the phrase open to reason.
Yeah.
Right? If you've ever been in a conversation with somebody that is living in earthly wisdom, they're not open to reason. All they're doing is defending their position rather than saying, "Oh, help me understand what you think," or "Why do you think that way?" or "Man, maybe there's something I can learn from you." No, they're seeking to be understood rather than seeking to understand. That's not godly wisdom. That's earthly wisdom. Godly wisdom, again, it's not afraid of truth. It's not afraid of changing maybe a perspective, because we know that God is bringing us into truth, and truth isn't fragile, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. And this wisdom that you say comes from above, comes from God. He has the correct perspective because he has an eternal perspective, and we're looking at whatever's happening in the temporal sense in a blip of the screen, so we don't get to see the whole movie, right?
Right. We get to see the trailer and think we know all the whole thing.
That's exactly. So why are you doing this, right?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah, you didn't see the whole thing."
Right. So did it mention in that particular area about asking from God? Asking for that wisdom, or
No, that was in James 1 where he says, "Ask wisdom." And then here James is telling us what that wisdom is, right?
Yeah.
So he says, ask in James 1:5. He says, "If you lack wisdom, ask of it." And then I think in 3, James is more talking about how do you know which one you're living to? Where's that mirror so I can go, all right, am I jealous? Am I trying to propagate self? And that's what selfish ambition is, right? I want to benefit self. Or am I really trying to understand? It's funny when I talk to different couples about conflict resolution in their marriage.
yeah,
I was given this by a mentor long ago. The reason is because they're functioning outside of what's called the context of understanding. They're trying to be understood more than understand. So when you think about the best fights you've had, or the worst fights, however you want to describe it, between you and Chelsea, most of the time it is you digging in saying, but you need to hear my perspective. And she digs in and says, you need to hear my perspective. And you stop actually listening to one another because you're more worried about getting them to understand you. And if you want to diffuse that whole situation, great question is, so help me understand what's making you feel this way. And now you turn from, you need to hear me, to I want to actually hear you. And so that goes against selfish ambition, right? Because selfish ambition says, no, you need to hear me and you need to comply to what I say. And so if you're in a wisdom, a setting where you're asking questions and it's more about propagating you rather than understanding God and understanding the other person, you're living in earthly wisdom, not godly wisdom. If there's jealousy, if you're longing for that which is somebody else's and you're longing it for yourself, that's not godly wisdom, that's earthly wisdom. If you're not at peace, like you can be overwhelmed,
Right.
but you can still be at peace. If you're not at peace, you're not experiencing heavenly wisdom, you're experiencing earthly wisdom.
Yeah. So do you have any experiences, I'm going to throw a question at you, where you've needed wisdom over a particular situation, a particular season of your life where, okay, I've got these big decisions coming up, I know it, and I'm going to God first on this. And what's your process to going to him in those types of times? And then how did you receive the actual wisdom you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, life is a series of those situations, right? And you either ask, all right, I'm going to consult some book or whatever, or I'm going to first consult God and then allow him to lead me to a book or whatever. Yeah. I remember I shared this on Sunday, a glimpse, and maybe I'll unpack a little bit. Our youngest son, Brandon, was wanting to move to Arizona. And I was not real at ease with the whole move. I thought, oh no. I find that parenting adult children is incredibly difficult. It's hard because on one hand they're adults, and so they can make decisions. On the other hand, they're still a little bit dependent on you because you haven't achieved full independence yet, and then you get to kind of sit back and watch the adult kids make decisions where you're like,
yeah.
My wisdom tells me, my perspective tells me this is not going to go well, right? And so I was just a little overwhelmed, a little perplexed, I was actually trying to find a way to control the situation, trying to find a way to thwart this idea. And so I went on a walk. I was just walking, and I said, all right, God, help me to find a way to get Brandon not to move to Arizona. And I didn't hear, here's your plan. What I heard was, what, do you think I don't love him more than you? And what I heard there was, I've got him. You've got to let him go and trust him to me.
Yeah.
And so that changed the way I operated. And rather than becoming somebody that was adversarial, I became somebody that was, all right, let me be part of it. Help me understand why you want to do this. Help me understand what's going on. How can I be of help to you? Fly out. We drove out there. I fly home. Drive out. Help him find his apartment and fly home. Guess what? It didn't go well. Exactly like I thought. But ultimately he calls and he says, Dad, it's not going well. But because I was able to bridge that gap, because I was able to release him into God's hands, then he had the freedom to call me and say, all right, Dad, help me out. Because he knew I didn't operate with reproach. I operated with godly wisdom. And so, yeah, it was just a time where I just started with God.
Yeah. That's a very comforting, it's the only comforting thing that anybody can do in a trial or a season when you're needing wisdom and you have this circumstance that's in front of you, because God is the comforter. He's like the God of all comfort, as is said in Corinthians. And so I'm relating that, like, as a good father, you know how to give good gifts to your children, even though the heart of every man is deeply sick or evil or defiled, right? All these words. And so you're wanting what's best for your son as an earthly father, even though you're a flawed human that is part of this whole team.
Hey, I'm not flawed.
Right.
I'll be the first to tell you how unflawed I am.
Okay, that's so funny. So like, I know how to give good gifts to my son, even though I'm a very flawed person. That's funny. And so how much more so then does our Heavenly Father say, I got you, or I got him? Like, are you kidding me? You don't have to worry. And that was one thing for me that I had to deal with very deeply when my son was born, and he was born at 34 weeks or 30. It was like not quite there, and he was so premature, and he was just the tiniest little 4-pound something baby, right? And he was brought to us in the room. And it's the very first night, and I'm laying there in the hospital room and I'm just listening to him breathe. And all I can do is I want to make sure that he's still breathing. He's still breathing. And after a certain amount of time, I don't know if it was hours or minutes or something, but I laid there for quite a long time where I was just exhausted after how the whole day started at 3:00 the previous morning and so on and so forth. And I had to release him, quote unquote, to God's care, not my own care. And it was the same exact thing. Andy, I'm the giver of breath. I'm the sustainer of life. And I had to be like, oh, I can actually go to sleep. He's going to be okay. He's going to breathe. At least that was the faith that I had, and he's still alive to this day.
And he's still alive to this day. And let me tell you, he doesn't have any problem moving around. That kid is active and the whole thing. Yeah. So, it's really cool. And there were times where, we would have to ask another question. All right, God, how stiff do I have to be? How strong do I have to be? I don't think I have the strength for this. When it was, hey, if we have to really hold a line, like, and our kids might say, well, I don't want to talk to you anymore then. And there's a lot. I mean, I can't tell you how many families you hear, well, I haven't talked to my parents in years. I'm like, what? What do you mean you haven't talked to your parents in years? And I get it. There's some really good reasons for that to happen. But, I am so joyed by certain people that I hear where they're like, yep, my childhood wasn't the best, but I still stay in contact with my parents. I was just talking to a person the other day that they went up north to northern Michigan to a family event, and they were sharing that it was causing a little anxiety because, man, there's some triggers there. But they went, they went and they trusted that the Lord is in this and that He's going to heal. And when we followed up on it, they were like, there was healing. There was tough moments, but man, it was. So do we really say to God, what do you want me to do? And then do we follow through that? Because ultimately that's what's going to bring peace. It's not going to bring strife. It's not going to bring discord. It's not going to bring selfish ambition. Yeah. It's not going to bring jealousy. And I think that that's a huge component to this. God, I want wisdom. I want to be able to apply the knowledge I have of you to this situation. And I don't know how to do it. And God says, man, am I glad you asked.
Yeah. How nice is that? And so it's beyond just wisdom. We're talking in this whole entire Just Ask sermon series about any questions that people might have in regards to Christianity or how God operates, the character and nature of God, and all that. We're going to be very interested to look into it because a healthy community is one that says, hey, let's seek God together as a community. Let's find the answers together, and it's okay to do so. And there's, I just want to throw in before we close this episode, a couple parables from Jesus. He speaks about the persistent widow who goes in front of a bad judge, right? He's an evil, selfish judge who doesn't fear the Lord, in fact. So he's a foolish judge, right? First off. But she wants justice for whatever the case is. And so if even a bad judge will respond to this widow who's persistent, then how much more will God respond to you? In other words, you're okay to be persistent. Right. You're okay to approach his throne with boldness and courage. Only, by the way, because of the blood that Jesus spilled to pay for us to do so,
Well, and James says with faith, And
Yes.
not like, oh, I know everything, but faith that God actually wants to hear from me and God actually has the answer. And I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The other parable is it doesn't have like a title, so to speak, but it's the friend who comes to the next door neighbor's house, and Jesus says, "Which one of you who has a friend will go to him at midnight?" So this is an unreasonable hour, right? And he says to him, "Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread." It's not just like, "Hey, I need some food
Need
for
a
this."
cup of sugar.
Yeah, right. Need a cup of sugar. He has a friend that's visited from a far off place, and perhaps this guy is hungry, whatever. But obviously, in the Jewish culture, they're to be hospitable, right? But 3 loaves of bread. This is an interesting number. It's like Trinity or perfect, or it's a lot. In other words,
Right.
it's 3 loaves of bread. A friend of mine has arrived from this journey, and he says, "What friend of yours will say, 'Don't bother me. The door is now shut. My children are with me in bed. I can't give up and give you anything.'" Right? They're like, he says, "No. In fact, that person will rise up not because he's your friend, but because of your impudence." Now that's an interesting word right there. Your impudence. It basically means like kind of like your brashness or your rudeness or just like your boldness or your persistence, right? And so even if this grumpy friend can serve the request of somebody who asked him in the middle of the night when it's uncomfortable at a strange time, and he's with his kids, he's all tucked in, even if that grumpy friend will do so, how much more will God do so? God's on an eternal mindset. It's never nighttime up there, by the way. It's always light, daytime. That's what he's right. In heaven, there will be no more night. Do you have something to say about that? I don't know.
But there's a new heavens and a new earth. And in earth, he did create night. But anyways,
Okay. I don't.
before sin. So yeah,
Okay.
we're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
We'll see when it gets up there.
So, so the whole point is with courage, with boldness, and regardless of the time, regardless of how simple your request might be, present it to God, because whomever knocks, the door will be opened. Whoever asks, he will receive. And whoever, what's the third one? Ask, knock, and seek. Exactly. And it will be given.
Yeah.
So, seek your heavenly Father.
It's okay to ask questions. He's bigger than anything that you could ask, and he loves to hear from you. And he's got the perspective that can give you the information or give you the perspective you need for the situation you're in.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly. So we're going to ask one more question this coming Sunday, and that's, hey, we've laid down the foundation, we've laid down the framework. Is it okay to ask questions? Yes, it is. It's okay to ask God. Now, what about the whole Bible thing? If that's how he speaks to us, if this is his word, how are we able to rely on this series of manuscripts and collection of works? Is it not just man-made collection of writings?
Yeah. Can we trust this thing? We'll find out.
Yep, we'll find out this coming Sunday, 10 o'clock here at the Well Church. If you liked listening, then please do share the video, like the video, or the podcast. If you're just listening on the audio, awesome. We appreciate you guys. But enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a fantastic weekend.